hoping that come November, we show up. And I guess I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent here. I'll probably have some specific words for like the right and their cowardice, but I guess for the left, and I'm not trying to be overly critical, but because I'm on your side ultimately. In 2016, when we were all raging about the lesser of two evils between Hillary and Trump, that conversation needs to die.
Right.
This lesser of two evils conversation, because in 2016, a lot of really progressive people, the Bernie fans, the Warren fans, the Yang fans, like a lot of really progressive people thought of Trump as a joke and did not go out and vote. And not only did we pay the price immediately, but that lesser of two evils conversation is like so wrong.
Yeah.
There is clearly, very clearly, not just as I don't like Hillary, by the way. This is not a Hillary endorsement by any chance, nor is it a Biden endorsement by any metric. Like there's plenty of things that are wrong that are wrong, and plenty of critiques that I have for the Democratic Party and or the Democratic way of primarying candidates. But to compare or to say lesser of two evils between those two, between these kinds of philosophical differences is not only flat out wrong, but egregious. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that, yes, Trump's a fucking idiot, but it just so happens that in the history books, he will be the most consequential president that will have effectively given the right everything that they've been wanting for the past 60 years, despite him being a fucking buffoon. You know what I mean? 3 justices appointed, so many state judges appointed. For him to have made those crucial, small choices that led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade is not only insane and some weird Black Mirror episode, but it is a clear indication of how one decision or one election can have dire consequences in the future.
Right. Well, I think we all want the instant gratification of having a president that does everything that we want them to do. But the reality is that all they're doing is placing a brick in a path. And so that is what we have to fight for. We have to fight for the right bricks being placed. We want the path that we want, not, this miracle that we all know is not going to happen. We just need the path to be paved the direction that is better for humanity.
I cannot agree more. And the reason I'm being kind of critical of my side in and of itself, what I'm actually saying is we didn't go out and we didn't vote that election, and we are now in some way, shape, or form paying that price in anxiety and angst, fear, this dangerous thing. But the reason I'm comfortable saying that is because in 2020 we were so fed up that we did show up, and Trump got more votes than he did before, and we still won. So we've been there. Statistically speaking, there's a third of people that voted for Trump in 2016 that did not consider themselves conservative Republicans at all. They just didn't like Hillary. And that is fucking absurd. I don't care if you don't like a political candidate. I don't like most of them. They're politicians. They're liars. That's the job. They're going to do what they do. But on a philosophical standpoint, you as a person need, at least now that we're seeing this unfold, we need to have a very thorough understanding that yes, gerrymandering does happen. Yes, a vote in Los Angeles is dramatically less than a vote in Wyoming. All of that is true. The Electoral College is fucked and it sucks, but there is still more people that are progressive than there are people that are conservatives. And we need to really stop doing this tap dance about like, oh, well, like we don't, you know, if it's not Bernie, it's nobody. Like,
Right.
no, because some of these decisions that are going to be made will affect us in the future.
Right.
And as much as I hate not having somebody politically that I feel I can really stand behind,
yeah.
right? As long as I hate not having somebody that really caters to the things that I deem important in my life. As much as I hate that, it's about the whole, not about the self at that point.
Yeah.
You know? And I really want to make it a point here to say that, like, we have to do everything we can to just show up and vote. Just as much as we are reposting stories, just as much as we are posting Twitter articles, just as much as we're making TikTok videos about it, just as much, if not more. If not more. I remember we had in this podcast a couple episodes ago, one of the first ones actually, we kind of got into it, everybody, and I took the position, we were talking about the book banning, and I took the position where I specifically said in that context-specific point that advocacy for book banning is not as effective as voting against book banning. And I still stand by that, but I want to kind of bring back that point because in that podcast I said, if you were the type of person that will post it over and over and over and over again, but will not vote, you are doing the cause a disservice. Like a huge disservice. And I would even argue that somebody that doesn't post anything but votes for it or against it, or whatever it is that will do more.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that is the way to get political change. The right has been extremely effective over the years of slowly inching their way forward and then taking a stand. Inching their way forward and then taking a stand. Inching their way forward and then taking a stand. And we have always wanted, just give me carte blanche what I want. And that's just not how progress has ever been made. Yeah. We had another episode on the podcast where I specifically said, we've done more with a sliver of progress over the past 100 years than if they would have given us the entire buffet. Because that's the way progress works. It's never going to be carte blanche, blank check, rewrite, like write your country the way that you want. But if they keep taking a little bit and then saying, we've always had this, sorry, this is, we're not going to move, and then taking a little bit in 12 years, it might not be a lot in 6 months. It might not even be enough in a midterm, but you fast forward 20 years and they're way farther along to their agenda than we were.
Well,
and we have been.
I think overall, we've seen not only our country, but the world in general become more and more progressive, right? Like we continue to inch in that way. So it's so crazy to us, to our society, to think that we would ever take that step that feels like we're just going backwards, you know?
Yeah.
So we're like that, like there are so many times in my head I've been like, that would never happen.
But this is what I mean.
They would never overturn.
It would never, it never came to us. It never came to us as a possibility because we align ourselves and hang out and have discourse, conversation online, on social media, where we clearly see that the world is better off. We clearly see that the world has progressed. We clearly see that there are very, beautiful people of all walks of life that have different identities, that have all these this value to provide to the entire world. We clearly see that, and we're trying to have a conversation about it. The only problem is that, to some degree, we're not voting for the people that also share our sentiment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is the real way to get to where we want to go.